Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We have Michelle Schroeder here. She is the founder and lead adventure instructor at Backpack the Trails, here to talk about backpacking Minnesota's Border Route Trail. So we've got 4 o'clock on the dot, and I will pass it over to Michelle.
Hi, everybody. Yes, thank you so much, Sheridan, for the introduction. I'm going to be talking about the Border Route Trail today, Minnesota's best kept secret. And I want to thank all of you for joining me. I just came in from outside and it's really beautiful out there. So if you're if you live in the sunny part of Minnesota or sunny anywhere, thank you for tuning in. It's been pretty rainy and dark here lately. I am going to First thing I'm going to do is I'll introduce myself so you have some background as far so that you know kind of the perspective I'm using to talk about the Border Route Trail. I'm going to give some trail history, lots of fun pictures to inspire people. We'll talk about how to through hike the Border Route Trail, some spur trails if you don't want to do through hikes there either. So I'm going to be going quickly. Well, first of all, I want to thank especially Midwest Mountaineering for helping to bring this presentation to you. Midwest Mountaineering, as many of you know, is an independently owned outdoor gear store in Minneapolis. And get this, they've been in business for 51 years. So even during COVID-19, Midwest Mountaineering is passionate about getting folks the very best gear and expertise to have great outdoor adventures. That means you and me and everybody. I still shop there too, even though I have some deals that I can spin once in a while. You'll see me at Midwest shopping around, not just giving presentations. And Midwest Mountaineering holds a special place in my heart personally, as I worked there for more than 4 years. So a lot of the people there are kind of family to me. My presentation falls in the middle of the expo. It's a biannual event that features multiple presenters sharing information about beautiful places to explore all over the world, and everything in the store is on sale. It runs through May 2nd, so you still have a few days to get your gear ready for the season. There is in-person shopping available, and they're also open for curbside pickup. They don't have an online store, so if you know what you'd like to get, feel free to give them a call. The number and the email address are listed up above there. Quick note, I'm also giving a presentation Sunday, May 2nd, 4 to 5 p.m. about California's Lost Coast. I also want to thank my wicked smart Ginny Galbraith. She is my marketing consultant. There she is with her husband and son. The dog's not in the picture, but usually is. She's out in Bozeman, Montana. All of the stuff that you see on my website, she has worked extensively on. So I'm gonna go ahead and introduce myself here. And then I'll show you how to plan for backpacking Minnesota's Border Route Trail. From what I understand, Sheridan at Midwest Mountaineering will moderate Q&A throughout the presentation. And correct me if I'm wrong about this, Sheridan, there's a way to click to join at the bottom to ask questions. Click to share, click to join, something like that. So just quickly, so what got me into backpacking? My parents took me camping when I was in diapers. And as an adventure junkie, I relish experiencing big wilderness and sleeping outside. I love it. It's also an awesome way to stay in shape. It's great full body exercise. Toughest trip I've ever done is right here. That not sure if the resolution is coming out, but that little kind of blonde stripe you see toward the bottom, a little toward the right, that is the Wonderland Trail that circumnavigates Mount Rainier. That was my first trip that required resupply. We'd cut the itinerary in half. I came back with some pretty sore knees. There's 23,000 feet of elevation gain and loss over 7 days. It was beautiful, changed my life. Favorite trail is the John Muir Trail. I'm sure that'll change over time, but this is at the very end of it. I soloed it over 21 days a couple years ago. That's Mount Whitney, the highest peak in the lower 48. Favorite local trail, the beloved Border Route Trail, which I'll talk about more here soon. Some other beautiful trails. This is the Lost Coast in Northern California, where they have, you need tide charts to get through. I'll be leading some trips out there this year as well. And then this is Milford Sound in New Zealand, where I spent 3 weeks. That is Mount Robson up in British Columbia. This is the Blue Glacier at the end of the Whole River Valley Trail. It's the payoff. A lot of people will summit some of those mountains around there. This is Isle Royale, Todd Harbor there. Used to hang out with Will Steger doing some urban guerrilla trips. This is one where the wind chill was 50 below and we were breaking trail by cross-country skis for about 20 miles that day. Ended up having sushi at the end of the day. This is, of course, Minnesota's much loved Superior Hiking Trail. I teach a lot of backpacking trips on there for beginners. Kayaked on the Water Trail in northern Minnesota on Lake Superior. And I'm just going to go through this quickly. Two-term mayoral appointee for the Minneapolis Community Environmental Advocacy Commission, both mayors Ryback and Hodges. And it did win recognition from the Obama administration twice for some innovative stuff. I take all of my trips very seriously, and I try to provide great guidance when talking about trails as well. I became a wilderness first responder before I opened my business. I was taking a lot of friends and friends of friends out on the trail, and I wanted to make sure I could keep them safe. This is the very beginning of my business, doing some day hikes around William O'Brien. Gotten some press, Star Tribune. I've since been in the Mill City Times. Will show up on Minnesota Bound this spring. So, all right, this is why everyone's here. What is the Border Route Trail? And I don't know if my face is popped up on there yet. This is Central Command, where all of the planning happens. So it is a 65-mile rugged wilderness hiking trail up in northern Minnesota. I've got a map that I'll show later as to where this runs. It essentially goes from the end of the Superior Hiking Trail on the northern end due west to the Gogebic Trail. You get to see a lot of really fun things along here. So Gunflint Trail way west to Otter Lake Road in the east. And it parallels the border chain of the Boundary Waters Lakes along the US-Canada border. A lot of people have canoed up there without knowing that there is a backpacking trail way up high on those palisades. And so I've done the trail twice. This was one that I did just last fall with my best friends, Ming and Louise. That's me on the left. And my friends Ming and Louise. This was fun. And the weather can really vary. This was early October and we got rain and snow pretty much every day except for this little moment here. This is up at the 270 degree overlook. And so I'm going to run through some photos here so that you can get inspired by what you're going to see up on this trail. So the first mile, you're on the Superior Hiking Trail where it ends up at the 270 degree overlook. And then there's a little tiny trail that goes off to the left just before you do the climb to the 270 overlook. That is the Border Route Trail. When I was here, this trip, the sign was knocked over, but I knew it was there because I'd done it before. And I know that I'm now on the Border Route Trail Association's board of directors. After doing this trail, I fell massively in love with this trail. So the signs will be back up again this year. But that's fall. That's October. And you can be there. This was late summer. The first time I went through, that was in August. That was 2 years ago. And then this is Gogebic Lake. There were some loons on this lake. What I would suggest, and I'll talk about maps here in a little bit, there is a campsite that you can see across from this lake. And I knew that they were canoeists, but I'm not sure they knew what was going on our side of the lake. If they had their maps with them, their Boundary Waters canoe maps do not show the Border Route Trail camping site maps, at least not that I know of. And the Border Route Trail maps don't show the canoe campsites, even though sometimes they overlap. When they overlap, they'll show up on the maps. But a lot of these, I know that the ethic kind of in the Boundary Waters is that if you get a campsite, it's your own. For those who do know about the Border Route Trail, and if they do overlap, there's fine. They'll welcome you in there. So you don't need to really worry about that. It's just a matter of how many tent sites are available, and it's all first come, first serve there. So this is the infamous Rose Cliffs by Rose Lake. This is, I couldn't quite get the angle because on this trip here, I was solo primarily. And so you'll see this on a lot of promotional materials. The view from there is incredible. And let's see what's going on. Some of these have video. Okay. And I think that this is either Mountain Lake or Watap Lake. And this was late summer and it was really foggy. It was beautiful. And then this here for sure is Watap Lake, and this was in the fall. And now that stuff that you're looking off way in the distance to the right there, that's Canada. And so that's why it's called the Border Route Trail. It's on the border of Canada. This is Daniels Lake. Went off on the spur trail there for some resupply, and I'll talk about resupplies here in a bit. And then this is also Rose Lake. Rose Lake is pretty big. You can see those little dots. Those are just below on the left there, kind of in the middle of the lake. And there's a third one way off in the distance. That's not dust. Those are canoeists. It was a pretty calm day. You can see some little wavelets out there. It's a calm day. People are making their way across the boundary, across Rose Lake to go to Stairway Portage Falls. Some call them Rose Lake Falls. And you'll see some palisades off there in the distance, kind of over to the right. So this is a really, what you have up on the Border Route Trail and the Border Lakes, it is part of what they call the Great Rift. And the Great Rift has kind of a horseshoe shape. It is volcanic and tectonic plates that were moving way back when Pangea was falling apart, when everything was one solid chunk of land on Earth. And so it almost tore North America in half. But you have this really interesting geology here. You're going to see across on the Palisades, those are all basalt columns. And then you have the same type of geology out on Isle Royale, and you have the same stuff over in Copper Harbor, Michigan. And so it's pretty unique. If you've been to the Boundary Waters or even along the Superior Hiking Trail, the geology here is different, at least on the eastern half of it. It's quite stunning. So again, that's Canada across the lake there. This is my opening photo. These canoeists was mere minutes until they were this close, kind of shouted down to them, which I know you're not supposed to do in the wilderness, but it was fun. They waved. I boogied over to the Stairway Portage Falls. I was hoping to be able to intercept these folks and to say, hey, do you want a picture of yourselves? Because I've got a great one of you guys coming in to check out the portage. So if that's you and you're watching this, just reach out to me. I'll be more than happy to share this with you. And this is just panning a little further to the left. Again, you can see some of that interesting geology there. And this is the falls. Part of them. So that's just part of the waterfalls there. I would hate to be portaging up this. It's a pretty steep climb. With a canoe on my shoulders, I think it'd be pretty tough to see going up. But it's really beautiful. There are two waterfalls along the Border Route Trail. This one is called, or actually there's a second one, Bridal Falls too. That first one is Stairway Portage Falls. This is Bridal Falls. And you're gonna have, excuse me, different water flows depending upon how much rain they've had up there, and again, what time of year that you'll be up there. So why hike the Border Route Trail? Well, you get a lot of solitude. It's incredibly quiet. If you get a really still day, you'll hear your heartbeat, especially out on some of these viewpoints. I think I heard a blue jay on one of my viewpoints, and you could just see for miles. Less than 1% of the Boundary Waters use is hiking or backpacking. Amazing scenery. Many places are not accessible by canoe, and it's wilderness hiking. This the W and the BWCAW stand for wilderness designation. And so there are no motorized vehicles, there are no motorized boats. If you're seeing planes fly over, it's going to be Forest Service, maybe doing search and rescue or panning for any fire potential out there, but otherwise that's it.
Point 9 above Rose Lake, that's Salt Lake off in the west. Beautiful morning. Oh my God. Rose Lake.
So that way, the very first lake that you could see off in the distance was South Lake, and this here is Rose Lake. And, and I was by myself on this stretch of the trail, and it's stunning. It was one of those quiet, really still days that I was describing, and it's nice. Superior Hiking Trail is great, but you can kind of always hear Highway 61. You can maybe hear some ATV trails being used, sometimes some dirt roads and stuff. It's great, but the Border Route Trail really took me by surprise. I was pretty stunned.
Tucker Lake campsite. So far, it's one of my favorites. Just little and sweet.
So that's Topper Lake campsite. And when you start getting to the western end, there are two sites that I haven't seen all the sites out there yet. But this is Topper Lake. It's really accessible from the trail. It's just kind of like a, I don't know, 100-foot walk in off of the trail. Sock Lake is actually really quite beautiful too. And again, you can hear the quiet there. It's phenomenal. So I ended up doing the wilderness section first, and then I came back a little bit later. This is my first time through, and slack packed the eastern end, which starts at Otter Lake Trail. There's a trailhead there, and then to McFarland Lake. And then this is one of the first things you'll see. This is one of the first payoffs. This is South Fowl Lake, and I was stunned. You can see some of the salt columns on the right there through some of the trees. Magnificent. That's some shadow, and because I'm on a palisade, that white kind of down toward the bottom, just the tips of the birch trees and aspen are getting sunlight. The rest of that is this from the shadow of the palisade that I'm standing on. And I also slack packed the eastern end too, which I think was about 6.5 miles. There's looking right at that palisade. So, okay, to orient you guys on where the Border Route Trail is, the yellow, we'll be focusing on the yellow line, which is the Superior Hiking Trail, the blue line, which is the Border Route Trail, and the Gogebic Trail. So now where the Border Route Trail and the Gogebic Trail meet, that's the Gunflint Trail. And the Gunflint Trail, just to avoid any confusion, is a road. It's like a 62-mile paved road. Lots of great resorts and access points for canoeing off of that. So the Border Route Trail connects the Superior Hiking Trail's northern terminus to the Gogebic Trail's eastern terminus. And it is part of the officially part of the North Country National Scenic Trail that goes all the way from North Dakota to, I think, Vermont. One of the longest trails in the country. It did literally take an act of Congress to incorporate the Border Route Trail into being part of the North Country National Scenic Trail. So
Michelle, we do have our first question.
All right, fire away.
Do you need to take any precautions for bears on this trail?
Well, you know, with any trail, you should take precautions for bears, and it's really important to make sure that not just your food, but any scented items are handled properly. We're talking anything from your scotch that you bring to your chapstick to if you have scented hand sanitizer out there, any of it. You got to make sure anything you might be actually cooking food in. You want to make sure that stuff ends up in your bear bag or food bag hang. For now, you just need to hang food up there. I know on the Superior Hiking Trail, people are starting to use bear canisters. That's pretty predominant out on the east and west coasts. You'll just want to make sure you check it to see if any regulations or requirements change. And so that's your primary thing. As far as bears in black bear territory, I generally do not bring bear spray. In grizzly territory, I will. I carry just a little thing of mace and just for personal protection when I am soloing out there as a woman. It just makes you feel a little bit better. It's unfortunate. That part I feel too. But no, and that's a really common question I get. You know, I know the woods can be really scary, but I would really suggest don't be bringing any guns and stuff out there. They've done studies on deterring grizzlies, and the most effective way is to be using bear spray and to get trained on how to use that properly. You can watch some videos on that. I would say head that direction as far as worrying about bears. So, and with any trail that you're going to be going on, make sure you check their websites to see if there are any problem bears in the area, so you can decide whether or not to spend the night in any of those campsites. And if you do, to be really careful about that. Okay, great question. Thank you. Okay, so a little bit of history on the Border Route Trail, and I just want to watch my time here. So this has been around since the 70s, or I actually started working on it on the 70s. It's the first volunteer designed and built wilderness trail in Minnesota. They were the early Minnesota Rovers, and it took quite a bit of time to do this. A group of people just decided, hey, you know what, let's just build a trail. So they did between 1972 and 1981. So when the majority of the trail was finished. And then they did have to acquire some private land, just like on the Superior Hiking Trail. It was done in 1993. So just know with any of these trails to treat them with respect. I know sometimes there can be a rift between, say, people ATVers or hunters and backpackers, and everyone is entitled to these trails. A lot of this stuff on these trails can go through private property, and to just treat that with respect. And it's a real gift that we have been given to be able to backpack through these areas and to give back to them. If you see garbage or anything on the trails, a lot of these, I'm on the Border Route Trail Association's board. This is all volunteer still. And so if you see anything, if you see branches in the middle of the trail and you feel like picking one up to clear it out for other people, please do it. It's great. And you feel better. I know I do when I'm doing that kind of stuff, clearing the trail for other people to enjoy. Yeah, and it's so, and if anybody is really into, doing trail maintenance, it's volunteer, it's organized by volunteers that the border, it's organized by the Border Route Trail Association, handling volunteers. There can be, this year, I don't think there will be Sawyer training, but there will be loppers and silky saws and stuff that people can use. There's a wilderness section, which means non-motorized, and then there are 2 non-wilderness sections on both ends of the trail. Sometimes they do canoeing trails for clearing stuff out with hand tools. It's pretty cool. So some people want that challenge of trail clearing within the wilderness area. It's definitely the most rugged. And so if you want to do the mechanized stuff, chainsaws, that kind of thing, 29 miles aggregate between the east and west ends, look it up at borderroutetrail.org. There's a Facebook group too, so you can look that stuff up there. A lot of people, there are some folks who are on the board who've not backpacked, done a through hike of the trail. They just like helping to work on it, whether it's treasurer, keeping, the account straight, or different roles, which I find some people really like doing this. So there's a great opportunity out there for that kind of stuff. So, oops, I've got a couple photos that are overlapped here. We'll just pretend that's not happening. So when you do your first 12.5 miles, I want to talk about trail conditions here, actually. And you will run into this here about 12.5 miles in from the eastern end to McFarland Lake, which is kind of your first opportunity to really camp out there. Some of the trail is going to be on dirt roads like this. And then this is right, once we cross this bridge and head to the right, then we're in the wilderness section. Even though it feels like wilderness when you're in it. Sometimes the trails look like that. Pretty wide. And then this is the, what is the name of this? I'm drawing a blank. Let me find it here. This is the, nope, that's the bridge. So hold on a second. I gotta find the right name of this. Daniels Lake. So this is the long portage section here. And so this is an old railroad bed. And so I've been through this section here 3 times. Once it was like this, the first time I did it, and this was about knee high. And the next 2 times I did it, I was standing kind of on a ridge line as I went through here. There's a beaver dam. A lot of it depends upon rainfall. This was a really wet year. They had planned some burns at the end of the season, and they just couldn't get it in because everything was just too wet.
So this here is the flooded beaver dam on the trail heading to Rose Lake. And this is where I wear trail runners and I use hiking poles. I want to see how treacherously deep it could be. And I'm hoping that it's actually not. So I don't mind mid-calf deep, but after that it gets a little scary. Wish me luck.
So some of the lakes there, I took a little dip in Gogebic Lake and I got leeches really fast. I mean, within less than like 45 seconds of just dashing into the lake and dashing back out. I had 2 of them on me, one on my back and one on my calf. They hadn't attached yet, thank God, because I can't handle that. And I didn't spend much time in here either, and I didn't get any leeches. But the bottom is really solid. And you'll see me comment on that here. This is how deep it was. So you just have to be prepared for this. And as I commented in the prior slide, I use trail runners, and that's a personal choice for folks. But
okay, so there were some sections back there where it was knee deep. Looks like we're gonna be okay. They say I'm the trail conditions that it's about 150 yards of this. It's nice gravel under here. And hope I'm not standing too still to catch leeches. So I'm going to get moving.
Yeah, you'll leeches. So this year, when I first approached this, I thought, oh no, this is going to be all mucky and suck my shoes off, and it's going to be disgusting, and I'm going to probably sink in, up to my thigh. It wasn't like that at all. This was actually kind of nice. It was hot that day. It was nice to actually have my feet cool off. And it's a former, I think, railroad bed. And so it's got gravel there. It's solid. And there are a couple of dips, and you just kind of want to make sure you're not disturbing the soil too much. You can actually, if it is like this again at some point, that you're not stepping into that too deep. It's maybe about that deep on those sections. So this trail is not for beginners. I want to really stress that. You are covering, depending upon, well, for me to do it in like 5.5, 6 days, anywhere daily average would be 7.5 to 13.5 miles. And so, and I wanted to take this trail on because I had heard years ago that some people got lost out there, and I was asked by the radio station in Grand Marais to put together a little podcast. And so I thought, well, I'll go ahead and do this. I kind of wanted to take it on. And I'm not, this is no criticism by any means whatsoever when I say that this is not a trail for beginners. It's not. There's mileage on there. There's a lot of elevation gain and loss, which took me by surprise. And I think it takes a lot of people by surprise. And one of the things you can look for, even though it's in a wilderness area, are some of these blue reassurance markers. If you don't see those for a period of time, just really pay attention to where you're going and when to turn around. Maybe, if you're nervous about it at all, when you are very clear about where you're at, maybe look at your watch, figure out what time it is, and then maybe look at your watch again the next time you see one of these, so you know how far you maybe have to backtrack. Some of the portages between the lakes are a little confusing. You're not going to be able to tell if you're actually on the trail, if you're on a portage. So make sure you're really looking at the maps closely. And I'll talk later again about maps and down the road here. So sometimes the trail looks like that. And then sometimes the trail looks like that. So I know that there's a really concerted effort this year to get out because no trail maintenance was done last year. And I'm really grateful for all of the people that are working on the trail this year. And sometimes the trail looks like that. So be prepared, it's just kind of constant, not sure. I don't know if there's been a complete thru-Hike yet. I know that there will, if it hasn't been posted yet, it will be soon, listing kind of the trail conditions, but people are getting out there to work on a lot of this right now. And that's fine. We see this on trails everywhere, right? You just have to either walk around the tree or, figure a way over it. There was a burn there. This is toward the western end. And so this is the trail there. This was kind of a hot, tough day for me. I didn't like this part at all. And I thought I had done the Gogebic Trail with Will Steger years ago. And that a lot of that was burnt on the west end. And I thought, man, if it's going to be burnt like this the whole rest of the way until I connect up with the Gogebic, I'm not sure I want to actually finish the thru-Hike. And then I found myself, kind of being introspective and happy and relieved. And then I noticed my surroundings because I was kind of lost in thought. I noticed my surroundings, and then all of a sudden I was back in the moss and the trees, and it was cool again. So it's not like this the entire way on the west end at all. This is by the Crab Lake Access Trail. And you'll see some signs throughout on the Border Route Trail. It's technically wilderness, and so you're not going to run into a ton of signs there. I know they're going to be working on this this coming season as well. And then here's some remnants of the fire that came through. There was the blowdown, and then a prescribed fire, and then an actual huge forest fire that came through. And then sometimes the trail looks like that. And so these are Thimble Berries. They can be a little scratchy. The way I was able to determine this is, well, I have a lot of experience. So I was just trying to figure out where the canopy was kind of coming together like this. Even though it looks solid, you can kind of see where the trees are doing this. And that indicated for me the trail. Again, it's not a trail for beginners. I'm not sure how much of this will get cleaned up this year, but just be prepared out there. There are apps that you can download for this too. And then you'll see trails like that. And that's the trail.
Partridge Lake campsite. Leaving it. This is the trail. Switch on here to the other side. I'll walk a little bit. Destruction from the storm.
Okay, so I'm going to retract that last statement saying that the trail looks like this. The trail does not look like this anymore. This is actually getting down to, I think it's called Partridge Lake. Let me find it here. That was a really humbling day. And this was the 2016 blowdown that came through there. And I would hate to have been there that day. Just do whatever you can to be maximally prepared out there. This is, let's see, I gotta find this. Let's see, map 2, map 3. Hold on a second here. This is, yeah, Partridge Lake. And it's the East Partridge Lake. When I took, this is when I was out, I recorded this because it was mind blowing. The trees were stacked horizontally up over my head. And the trail folks actually cleared this out. And I mean, even looking at this now for me is tough. You know, there were people who died out there in that storm. When I went through there with my friends this last fall, May and Louise, I said, ladies, just drop our packs. Let's go down here. You need to see this trail. And just to understand what wilderness can look like and what can happen when you're out there. I think it's a really, really good experience for anybody to just walk through something like this. It's a beautiful campsite. Once you get down there, it's great, completely beautiful, great little place to dip in and swim. There's some nesting loons out there. It's gorgeous. So with the Border Route Trail, you have some great options. You can thru-hike it. You have to arrange a shuttle to do that. Nowadays I work with Harriet, who's a character. And then you can do some loops, tying together some different spur trails. You can do a boomerang back and out. You can do some day hikes. You can do a combination canoe and hike, which I think would be a blast. I think it'd be really fun to be out in a canoe for a couple days, stash the canoes and backpack for a couple days, and then come back and then hike or canoe again. I think that would be just a really rich experience. So, and then you have some options along there. You've got a lot of resorts. Now, the Border Route Trail Guide has a section, and I'll show a picture of that here in a moment. It has a section that talks about all the different amenities that are available out on the Gunflint Trail. It lists all the resorts, whether they have bunkhouses, cabins. You can go full on resort. You know, you can do full on fine dining if you want. You can car camp out there. You've got state forest campgrounds or national forest campgrounds, Forest Service campgrounds. And in the wintertime, you can snowshoe, cross-country ski, and do some winter camping out there too. If you feel like it, you could just camp right in the middle of a frozen lake as long as it's solid enough. And so I was there the first time in the fall. You see a lot of migrating, these were geese heading south. Some mountain ash. This is close to Gunflint Lake. And so as you're going through this, if you could do this, I would say some people do it in 4 days. That's pretty aggressive. It's a really pretty trail, so I don't like to go through it too quickly. Plus, it's nice to spend a little bit of time at Gunflint Lodge. And so places that offer resupply along the way: Rockwood Lodge, Gunflint Lodge, Gunflint Pines Resort, Clearwater Lodge. Reminder, so for Clearwater Lodge, any of these where you have to exit the trail, if you're leaving the wilderness area and you're going back into the wilderness area, you do have to get a permit for that. And this is the Border Route Trail Guide that I mentioned, and you can see the Rose Cliffs right there on the cover of it. Pretty famous. So it has, and the guidebook is great, but don't be using the maps in there for your navigating out there. These are just more kind of suggestive if you're doing your research and stuff ahead of time for the hike. And you can get that at borderroutetrail.org online. Midwest Mountaineering, REI carry it. Some of the resorts up north, they carry it too. It's about $15. I think that's still the price. And then something that's really important to get, and this is the crinkling you've been hearing me do in the background. These guys here, these are waterproof maps. They're double-sided, so 2 pages, total of 4 maps. It's absolutely the best. And these are hard to find out about. I'm encouraging Midwest Mountaineering to carry these so that folks can just walk in and buy them. And then they show all of the spur trails, all the parking, the campsites, the portages, roads, the Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness boundaries, the Canadian boundaries, some of the roads. It's really good. That's, I think, $13.99, may have gone up $1 or $2. Some Gunflint Trail resorts carry this as well as getting it online from northcountrytrail.org. I know Border Route Trail Association is working on spiffing up its website too. You can always check their website as well, but for sure you can get this at northcountrytrail.org. And so, since we talked about resupplies and needing to get permits, when you want to go to recreation.gov, and most people are familiar with getting permits for entry points for canoeing. And so if you look underneath that yellow bar, the very first box you'll see on the left is overnight hike. Typically that defaults to entry points or canoeing. And you want to make sure you're not going to, when I was first trying to do this, I was looking for the nearest entry point. That's not how this works for the backpacking. You want to hit overnight hike, and then you'll see Border Route Trail center, east or west. And I think their typical quota is about 3 permits per day. And so you'll want to make sure that you're getting your permit. Now, let me flip back to this map because I want to make sure the brown is the wilderness area, the green is not. And so on the eastern end, I wish I'd included a picture of that. Your first section, your first 12.5 miles are the Border Route Trail, but they're not in the Boundary Waters Wilderness. So make sure that when you're calculating your wilderness date entry, that you're calculating the right day. It's probably not going to be the first day you're on trails. If you're going from east to west, it's going to be your second day on the trail. Probably same from the west as well. Pretty long distances there. So at the northern terminus of the Superior Hiking Trail, you'll see that they overlap the Border Route Trail. This is the northern terminus of the Superior Hiking Trail. There's a sign there. It's pretty fun. You can sign that log book there. And once you see this, if you're heading back down, again, you'll see the little tiny trail that heads off that a couple years ago just looked almost like a game trail, but it should be bigger than that now. There are some times where you're going to be this close to Canada, literally. So you got the United States on one side, Canada on the other side. It's pretty fun, actually. And then when you get to, this is just a heads up, when you get to the western section, you're going to be close to Gunflint Lodge, you're going to be close to Heston's Lodge, you're going to start seeing lots of signage. This is where I got lost. And I mean, not lost per se. It was one of these things where I just wasn't sure which trail I was supposed to take. The Border Route Trail map just shows the Border Route Trail. It doesn't show any of the cross-country ski trails and horse trails. And there might be some snowmobile trails there. I can't even remember. This is over by the Gunflint Lodge. And so you're going to want to pause and just really orient yourself as to where you are. And, you know, sometimes you may be in this little standing in a circle and you've got 5 trails off of that to choose from. Just be patient. Try to really, this is something that the Border Route Trail Association is working on as well in conjunction with some of the resorts there. Because I suspect, I mean, I'm assuming that some of the people that even cross country ski there get a little bit tangled up. Just keep this in mind, you know, take your time and just know some of these ski trails are really wide. They're probably 2 car widths wide. And then you'll see maybe a little flag. Sometimes these blue flags get faded and they might be pink. And you'll see one of the little signs that say Border Route Trail, they're really little, on an end of a metal stake, and it'll dash off into the woods. So whenever you're investigating any of these spur trails, make sure that you are keeping your eye open for anything that could detour off. And that's technically the border route trail. I did manage to do the entire border route trail without shortcutting anything, which was amazing to me in this tangled up area. The Gaia app will walk you through this stuff. Just make sure it'll track you using GPS, and you can have your phone in airplane mode. This Gaia app will know where you are at all times. If it's working correctly, and make sure that you check that out ahead of time. My Gaia app worked beforehand and it didn't work when I was out there. So I was really truly just using paper maps and compass. And I'll tell you, that compass really saved me out there. So make sure you're doing that as always. So
Michelle, we did have a couple questions about navigating. One is, are there blazes too, or just markers? I think they're referring to the markers that you showed several slides ago. The blue.
Oh, yeah, good question. There are not blazes, certainly not in the wilderness section. I'm trying to think if there are in the non-wilderness sections. I don't think that there are. In the non-wilderness sections, the signage gets better. It's just this western section where things get really tangled out. You're gonna see lots of signs like this, and you're not gonna see signs for the border route trail. And you're like, wait, am I on the right one? And then when you do get to, what is it called? The High Cliffs Overlook. There are two trails that have blue blazes, and they're going this, they're doing like 90 degrees from each other. So, you can go down one. It's not, some people are purists, and I kind of felt like being a purist on this trail. So I made sure I found a couple that was actually up there doing some photography. And they said, when they tried to do this in 4 days, they had gotten lost right at that exact point, the high point overlook. And so they had a little map that the resorts put together, and I looked at it and I took a photo of it, and I was able to just study it using my map. And I figured out, I'm like, okay, I need to backtrack a little bit and actually take a left, and then got into that section where you have 4 or 5 spurs going, big trails going out, and figuring out the right one. It was kind of lucky, actually. And then, yeah, the Gaia app, and I don't know, I don't know if the Avenza app is doing the border route trail yet. If not yet, then I'm sure they will at some point. I've got to look into that myself too, which other apps are out there. And
Yeah,
this is
another question somebody had was about any apps you used.
Right.
Kind of answered that one.
I used Gaia. So the first time I went through this trail, I was on there with Annie Nelson, who a lot of people know from her huge hike. I think she did half the North Country Trail. We were on this trail together for a couple days. Her Gaia app was working, mine was not. And so, yeah, look, Gaia should work. I don't know if Avenza is out there yet or not. Apps like Gut Hook and stuff like that, they're not going to be dialing in on smaller trails like this. They do more like the Appalachian Trail, John Muir Trail, that kind of stuff. And then this is what got me out of hot water. This is the map that the resorts put together, and you can see kind of toward the top, Gunflint Lodge. A border route trail is coming in from the right side of the screen there. Yeah. I was at the High Cliffs Overlook. I had to backtrack to get to it because there are some other trails on there too that aren't indicated on that map. So yeah, it's great. You can find your way out there. Just be really patient and build in time. You don't want to be careening into this exhausted and frustrated. So, and you can see Glenflint Trail kind of over there on the left, next to their key, and just below the dog sled guy. And you'll hear the road and you'll think it's just right there. And then you'll end up taking a turn. You'll be going the wrong direction. You can get really tangled up in here very easily.
These are the ski trails close to the Gunflint Lodge that make the trail really confusing, and thankful for things like that. But the trail is even up here a little bit further. Not trailhead, but the turn off. Here we go. All right, ready to go.
So yeah, it can be really little like that. Lots of blue reassurance flags there. And this is in the non-wilderness section, but those blue reassurance flags kind of carry you throughout the whole trail. And again, so then once you get past the turnoff, the dirt road that goes to Gunflint Lodge, again, you end up with a lot of this kind of signage. It's a lot easier when you get to this section though. This is maybe another 4 miles, 3 miles or so east of kind of that mess of cross-country ski trails by the Gunflint Lodge. And then as you're on the east end of the Border Route Trail, this is kind of the big payoff there. It's 6.5 miles from that dirt road by the Gunflint Lodge to the end of the trail at Gunflint Trail, which is road. But this is about 2.5 miles in from the trailhead terminus. And this is about 30 feet tall. I was there that day, and when I was doing the solo section of it, I was there by myself. This is magnificent. Bring your compass along with you, always. But even if you're turning this into a day hike, you should always have your compass on you. But make sure everyone in your group has their compass with them, because it's really fun. It actually does it, and it's not like the compass will throw you off from a distance. I had to get pretty close to the rock to have it do its little thing.
So there's the compass. There's the rock. There's the compass. I'm approaching magnetic rock. And that's what your needle will do. It'll be right next to it. And then it takes over. I was worried it was going to start doing this from like a quarter of a mile away. I meant my compass would.
Yeah, and that my compass wouldn't work. So yeah, make sure you've got your app, make sure you've got your maps, make sure if you have any sense that you're getting lost, that you just stop and, you know, try to figure things out. And then, so as I mentioned earlier, the trail crosses a lot of portages. This is the beginning of one of my trips up there. This guy, it was fall, and so he was hunting grouse. So he had his gun with him, and he had stashed his canoe at the portage. This is, I don't know, not a very long hike to get from the Border Route Trail to get down here to get water. Not a very long hike. It's a great place to sit and grab lunch. He had his little dog with him. You can have dogs up on the trail with you and in the boundary waters. You just want to look at the regulations for that. He's a great guy. He got skunked trying to hunt out there, but most people kind of associate the boundary waters with fishing. But yeah, you know, you'll run into all sorts of people out there. Cute. So this is on the eastern terminus. You have to go down the Arrowhead Trail, which is a dirt road, for quite a while, and then you go on to Otter Lake Trail, and that's dirt as well. So this is what my vehicle looked like. And so be prepared for, you know, having to wash your car afterwards. It's a completely manageable dirt road though. I mean, there might be a little bit of washboard, but it's not one of these where, you know, you need this high clearance Jeep or anything like that to get to the trailhead on the eastern end. It's completely doable with a sedan. It's not, there's nothing scary about it at all. That's what it looks like there. And there is this really beautiful patch of old red pines and white pines, this old growth there. These are really old. They're well over 100 years old, and they're smaller than the ones that I'm used to seeing down in central Minnesota. They don't grow as fast. They have a shorter growing season, but there also just isn't as much topsoil. So they tend to be a bit smaller, but, you know, kind of your quintessential boundary waters scene. Yeah, almost. Well, that sign looks pretty old, so I'm guessing those are probably 200 years old now. Beautiful. It's a really special spot on the Arrowhead Trail. So you have all these Superior Hiking Trail, Border Route Trail, Gogebic Trail. Those are backpacking trails. The Arrowhead Trail is a dirt road. You have Otter Lake Trail, which is a dirt road. You have Gunflint Trail, which is a paved road. So make sure you get your stuff studied ahead of time. And so as I mentioned, I took Harriet's shuttle. I think she was in like the Star Tribune or something recently. She's quite a character. And this is when she's got this kind of rickety van, and she's got these rules taped to the dashboard in the front. And it, you know, she's very laid back. She's got so many stories to tell. And if you want to be entertained, she's the person you need to contact. It's really tough because you've got It's about a 2 hour, hour and 3/4 or 2 hour drive between the western terminus and the eastern terminus. You're heading down the Gunflint for 65 miles. You're heading up Highway 61, then the Arrowhead Trail. So be prepared. Those are her rules, and she has stories about each and every one of those, and I'll let her tell those. And so when I was done with my first hike on the Border Route Trail, I went into Grand Marais, one of my favorite towns on earth, went to the Gunflint Tavern, and I thought, I want to celebrate my success on finishing the Border Route Trail. Do you happen to have anything beer named after the Border Route Trail? And they did. They had a Border Route Trail ale. And so I, enjoyed a couple of those, and I had a lovely dinner at the counter in Grand Marais. Felt great. So that's my contact information. If anybody has any additional questions that they'd like to send my way, feel free to let me know. Again, it's not a trail for beginners. It can be done. Harriet and I have had some discussions yesterday and the day before. I'm going to be holding or leading a couple of paid trips on the Border Route Trail this year, late August and late September to early October. Full through hikes. We're going to be starting out at the Outpost Motel and Hungry Hippie Hostel. Harriet's going to be shuttling us to the Eastern Trail Terminus and then stashing our cars for us, and then shuttling cars out to the west end of the trail so we can pick those up at the end. We'll spend the full time backpacking out there, pretty aggressive trip. And then we'll wrap up at Gunflint Lodge. We'll be staying at the camper cabins there, and they're really cute. And we're not going to be doing, not this year, we won't be doing the big, until COVID-19 is over. I'm not going to be mixing groups in some of the bigger options that they have there, the really huge cabins that they have. We are going to be having a lovely dinner there at Gunflint Lodge though. So, and then finishing up with a day hike at the end of the trip. So if anybody's interested in those, feel free to look those up. They should be on my website now. But if you have any questions about this, please let me know. And are there any more questions out there, Sheridan?
Yeah, thanks, Michelle. That was great. There is one question still out there. Somebody was wondering how the cell phone signals are up in that area.
Oh, just non-existent. Don't even think of that. I've got my Garmin Mini InReach that I use. If you need to send text messages and stuff, you can have the Earthmate app on your phone, and you can tether it to your Garmin Mini InReach, and that's how you communicate with the outside world. If you run into any trouble, use the SOS feature on that or any other type of satellite messenger or beacon locator device or satellite phone, any of that kind of stuff. That's how you would want to communicate out there. There's no cell service. I'm just going to say that flat out. Just none, zippo nada. Even if you will lose that at Hovland before you're even off Highway 61. So the Arrowhead Trail, if you're driving down that, you're not going to have cell service. No cell service out there whatsoever. So keep that in mind. I bring my phone along for taking photos. All these photos that you see here were taken with my iPhone 6. I've upgraded to an iPhone 12. And so it's a beautiful place out there, but yeah, there's no cell service at all. So make sure you have a beacon locator device out there. And so my trip dates, my marketing person just sent me a message saying to share my trip dates again. And I've got my little calendar right here. So my trip dates are going to be August 23rd through the 29th. So late summer, which will be nice. Maybe start seeing some early fall colors. But if you want full on fall colors, this is the coup de grace. It's going to be September 7th until October 3rd. And if we can get in, if they're still offering these up there, I mean, they've got a massage therapist up there. She used to work at the Ted Turner Ranch. And they've got some pontoon happy hours out there on the Gunflint Lake. They've got dinner out on the lake. It's a really cool lodge and restaurant out there too. I'm really looking forward to that. So we kind of start nitty gritty on the east end, and then we end up like really posh on the west end, the end of the trail, when you just really are going to appreciate, getting a shower, sleeping on a bed, that kind of stuff. So I think that's it. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Unless Sheridan, if there are any other questions that have come in.
There is. Somebody wants to know the best time of year to thru-Hike.
Well, the 2 trips that I have are the best times of year to through hike. Anything between, I would say, mid-August up until very early October. Those are the best times of year to go for sure. So have fun out there. It's really beautiful. If you guys have, if you guys, if I'm assuming people are going to be doing this year, whether it's going to be a through hike or it's going to be a section hike. If I'm super excited about this trail, feel free to post your stuff on the Border Route Trail Association's Facebook page. Feel free to hit me up with stories. If you've got some killer photos and stuff, send those things my way. I would be more than happy to hear about your experiences out there. It's a really, really, really special place. I cannot say enough about this trail. It's lovely. Have fun out there. Enjoy the rest of the expo. And remember, get your camping gear. If you don't have it now, get in there fast, okay? Take care. Bye.
Thanks, Michelle. And I just want to clarify, because I think the video cut off. So the 2 trips are August 23rd through 29th and September 27th through October 3rd.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Great. Somebody was
Thanks for
asking that
tuning
in the chat as well.
Oh, great. Thanks. Thanks for tuning in.
Yep. Thank you. Have a great day. Thanks, everyone.
Bye. Thanks. Bye.